Chloe always used to tell me that Mark detested Emily to his very core. Yet, on the day Emily returned after years away, I glanced at Mark, and his eyes, once so cold, softened. They held a kaleidoscope of conflicting emotions, but a single glance was all it took for me to recognize it. Love. The story you're hearing is called My 10-Year Secret, originally broadcast on the YouTube channel Mr. Bin. I arrived at the bar to find Mark with his arm around a woman, laughing joyfully, intimately. He saw me and raised an eyebrow. "You're late, aren't you?" he said, his arm still around her, an air of casual laziness about him. "I'm used to it," I thought, ignoring the suffocating smell of smoke and alcohol. I walked over and pulled his arm. "If you've had enough, let's go home." The woman next to him leaned into him, displeased by my presence. "Mark, who is she?" Mark didn't say anything, but a friend nearby answered for him. "Who else?" "She's Mark's bane, that's who." Their teasing tone made my ears burn. It was then that Mark gently pushed the woman away, his eyes from the sofa never leaving me. He smirked. "Ava, are you really my girlfriend to be so possessive?" I froze, my eyes leaving him. "Stop dreaming. Are you coming or not?" Seeing that I was about to leave, he reluctantly stood up and said goodbye to his friends. "She keeps me on a tight leash, you see." His words were light, but his voice was full of innuendo, and even his friends' gazes at me changed. I feigned anger, turning away and ignoring him. Mark immediately tried to pacify me. "I was just messing with them, you didn't really think that, did you?" I remained silent, so he showered me with sweet words to cheer me up. He didn't know that I wished those words were true. It was precisely because I hoped for too much that I couldn't be happy. And even more, I couldn't let him know my secret. I knew Mark too well. We'd been friends for 10 years, a carefree soul, a magnet for trouble. Our mothers were childhood friends, so we'd known each other since we were kids and had a long-standing bond. But because of that, in his eyes, I would always be just a little sister. Once, after breaking up with a girl who had a crush on him, he turned to me and said, "Ava, never be the type of girl who clings to others. Men really hate that." I was only 17 then, in the prime of my youth, and that budding affection, that desire to express myself, was immediately buried deep within my heart. At the time, I always thought we had plenty of time, that sooner or later I'd tell him. But Mark wasn't like me. The women in his life changed constantly, one after another. I could never seem to find an opportunity. In my first year of university, I almost gave up. But that day, Mark got drunk and said to me, "Ava, will you always be there for me? You're not like them. Don't become like that." What did he mean by like that? Not to become one of the girls who loved him. From then on, I didn't dare to think about confessing. I was afraid that in his eyes, I would become one of them. So, I started to be with him in the way he wanted. Even though he constantly changed the women by his side, he had never brought anyone home. Sometimes I comforted myself, thinking that maybe I was special to him. With only that fragile belief, I kept my feelings hidden for 10 long years. I had loved Mark for 10 years. This secret I would never tell him. From that day on, I had made up my mind. Perhaps feeling bad about upsetting me yesterday, Mark was already waiting outside my house this morning, his flashy sports car parked prominently. As soon as he saw me step out, he rolled down the window, his voice leisurely. "Princess Ava, let me give you a ride to work." He knew I wouldn't refuse, but it was his self-confidence that I hated the most. His certainty that I would always be so soft-hearted. I sighed in helpless surrender, giving in to him once more. But the moment I opened the car door and smelled a strange, strong perfume inside, I froze. In a flash, I understood everything. Mark, seeing that I was in the car, began to introduce his new conquest. "Annabelle, my new girlfriend. Isn't she pretty?" He wasn't really asking my opinion, just being nonchalant. I didn't pay much attention to the girl's appearance, only glanced at her when I got in, then nodded vaguely. Pretty. Annabelle was striking, exactly Mark's type. Vibrant and sharp, completely different from me inside and out. I was always quiet, while Mark preferred lively, impulsive personalities, nothing like me. Annabelle sat in the back seat, placing her hand on the backrest, acting very friendly. Mark said you're his sister, so I'll call you Big Sis too. Every one of Mark's girlfriends was enthusiastic like this, but I could never get used to it. I'm not his sister, I replied calmly. Annabelle seemed surprised, looked at Mark, and seeing that he had no intention of explaining, lowered her gaze to her phone, a little embarrassed. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. At least I didn't have to deal with his girlfriend's antics. For me it was one less torment. Still want to go to your favorite breakfast spot? Mark's voice came from the driver's seat. I didn't turn my head, still looking at the receding scenery outside the window. I've already eaten. Just drop me off at the company. In truth, I hadn't eaten anything, but with Annabelle in the back, I really didn't want to be a third wheel. If I had known someone else was in the car, I wouldn't have foolishly agreed to get in. Mark reached out and ruffled my hair, smiling. Who are you kidding? You've never been able to skip breakfast since you were little. Your mom even asked me to keep an eye on you. I coldly slapped his hand away. I'm not a child anymore. I'm 26. I don't need you to take care of me. Just take care of yourself. Mark wasn't angry, instead he teased. Still single at 26? No boyfriend. If I don't manage you, who will? I whirled around, my voice a little louder than usual. Mark! He glanced at me, then toned it down a bit. Tisk, it's rare to see you angry. Usually your face is so cold it's boring. Knowing he was teasing me, I grew even more irritated. It had always been this way. This person always made me emotional. No matter how much I pretended to be indifferent, just one word or gesture from him could break down all my defenses. In the end, Mark still went to the breakfast spot and bought food for me. Annabelle went with him. When they returned, I could clearly see that Annabelle's expression wasn't good, but that had nothing to do with me. I'm currently working at a leading corporation in North City. I remember in my second year of university, when Mark was in his final year, I asked him what he would do after graduation. He replied, "What else? My mom told me to go train at my uncle's company, so I'm going." Because of that, I worked hard, participating in competitions, earning commendations, and achieving good results, just hoping to be excellent enough to work at the same place as him. But when I finally worked hard enough to get an offer from the company, planning to surprise him, he said, "Sitting in there all day is so boring." I quit and went pro gaming. Oh yeah, Ava, I'm really good, you know. After just 2 months, a team invited me. I'll take you to watch sometime. It's really exciting. I don't remember much of what he said after that, only that I congratulated him. My hand at that moment still held the golden glittering job offer letter that countless people coveted, so dazzling it hurt my eyes. The things I had to work so hard to achieve, he could always easily give up. I knew he was always very talented, that he could succeed at whatever he put his mind to. I just felt sad, as if we would forever be on different trajectories, and even if our paths intersected for a moment, we would quickly lose each other. As if our ambitions would never align. As if my feelings would forever go unrequited. As the end of the year approached, all companies were incredibly busy. I poured all my energy into work. I hadn't seen Mark in a long time. It was probably for the best. Less to see, less to feel conflicted about. Director Chen, the evaluation period is coming up. Can you go easy on us? Please. Director Chen, you're so beautiful and kind, you wouldn't be cruel to us, would you? That's right, Director Chen, you're the best. Please be lenient. I rolled my eyes. Every year at this time it was the same. I forced a smile, then sternly evaluated. No cheating. Get to work, everyone. Everyone sighed in despair. I shook my head helplessly. If you're not too lazy, I can be a little lenient. Immediately, the office erupted in cheers. Seeing how quickly they changed their tune, I couldn't help but laugh. Working at this company for so many years and making good friends was probably a blessing. Sister Ava, it's almost New Year's. Aren't you going to bring a boyfriend home? The question came from Lily, 2 years younger than me, who had been at the company for a year, cheerful and loved to gossip with me. I poked her forehead. "Work, don't ask silly questions," Lily whispered conspiratorially, her face full of curiosity. "Is it that handsome guy we saw drop you off at work the other day?" "Oh my gosh, Sister Ava. He's drop-dead gorgeous." She was referring to the time Mark had driven me to the company. Feigned anger. "All right, your year-end bonus just flew away." Lily immediately clapped a hand over her mouth, wailing, "I'm sorry. I won't ask anymore, Director Chen, my benevolent queen." Tom walked by, laughing heartily. "Lily's teasing Director Chen again, huh?" The entire office burst into laughter, the atmosphere lively and cheerful. Knock knock. The sound of knocking on glass. I looked up. It was the CEO's secretary, Alice. I stepped out to hear her. "Director Chen, the CEO would like to see you in his office." The CEO was Mark's uncle. Mark had once tried to use our connection to get me special treatment, but I refused. I wasn't a genius like him. I had already failed enough. I didn't want another stain on my record. Fortunately, Mark wasn't persistent, so now, facing the CEO, I didn't feel awkward. He wore a sharp suit, looking very dashing for his age. He flipped through the files in his hand and, seeing me, smiled warmly. "Ava, I called you here to tell you some good news. You've done very well these past few years, achieving what you have today. I'm very pleased. The thing is, by the end of this year, early next year, our branch in South City will open. I'm thinking of having you go there to be the general manager. What do you think?" I paused, somewhat surprised by the sudden promotion. But South City wasn't close. It would take 4 or 5 hours by plane. If I worked there, I might only be able to come home for holidays. I couldn't deny that I felt a little reluctant. Reluctance for my family, for my friends at this company. But in truth, I knew best that these were all just excuses. My parents wanted me to go out and make a career for myself more than anyone. Tom and Lily, even if they were sad, would still want me to get promoted. Only I was reluctant. Reluctant to leave a man who already had a girlfriend. Reluctant to leave a scoundrel. Reluctant to leave Mark. I really was too foolish. In the end, I still said, "CEO, let me think about it. I can't decide right now." He was very understanding. "No problem. It's normal for young people to be reluctant to leave their friends. If you don't want to go, just stay here and do well. By the end of the year's evaluation, you'll probably be in the top 3 again, ha ha ha." I laughed, but inside, 100 emotions intertwined. I hadn't even thought about whether to tell Mark. Although we usually didn't hide anything from each other, I was afraid that if I told him and he didn't react at all, I would be humiliated. After all, I still had my pride. Over the years, I had become calmer, but also more withdrawn. The more tightly one locks their heart, the easier it shatters under a fall, like trampling on one's self-esteem. At that moment, it would be like dying once more. When Mark called, I was in my office, getting ready to leave. His voice on the other end sounded relaxed. "It's the weekend tomorrow. You're off, right? I'll take you out." I thought about how I hadn't heard from him in over half a month, and a flicker of joy stirred within me. I was about to agree when I suddenly remembered Annabelle. "I can't go. I'm too tired today. I'll just go home." "If you're tired, you need to de-stress. Come down now. I'm waiting outside your company." Mark didn't let me say another word, decisively hanging up. Still the same selfish behavior. I went downstairs and saw him sitting in his car, waving me over. Dressed casually, looking like he'd just stumbled out of somewhere. I didn't have to be a genius to guess Annabelle was in the car. Though I liked Mark, I also had my pride. I intended to walk around and avoid them, but he got out of the car. Seeing me about to leave, he pulled my arm, wearing his gold-rimmed glasses, a charming and carefree smile on his face. "What's wrong? Who upset our Princess Ava?" I glanced into the car. Sure enough, Annabelle was sitting inside. She didn't get out, just silently watched us squabble outside. Her expression not good. I tried to pull my arm away from Mark, but couldn't. It was rush hour and people were bustling by. Lily walked past, eager to come closer, but I shot her a look and she stopped. Not wanting to continue being the center of attention, I lowered my voice. "Can I just go home? Take your girlfriend out." "No way." Mark pulled me towards the passenger seat. I gave up resisting. At most, it was just one evening together. It wasn't like it hadn't happened before. This time, Annabelle didn't try to talk to me. Perhaps she knew I was quiet. That was fine. The more quiet, the better. Half a month of overtime had truly exhausted me. I fell asleep without realizing it, only waking up slowly when I heard noisy voices nearby. The car was stopped on a crowded street. Mark and Annabelle weren't inside. I looked out and saw them standing by a flower stall. Annabelle held a bouquet of red roses, her face no longer gloomy, but instead she wore a sweet smile, her arm linked with Mark's. They looked like a perfect couple. I pulled my gaze back to my phone. My mom had texted, "Have fun. Come home early." I guessed Mark had already informed her. My mom always had a special trust and fondness for him. In her heart, Mark and I were probably a couple long ago. I didn't know whether to be happy or sad. If I told her one day that Mark was actually a promiscuous playboy, she'd probably be so angry she'd make me cut ties with him. "You're awake." While I was still drowsy, they had returned. Annabelle, holding the bouquet of flowers, sat in the back. She must have just been placated by Mark, as she spoke to me gently. "Sister Ava, we didn't wake you since you were asleep. I saw the flowers were so pretty, so even though Mark went to buy some, I bought a bouquet for you too." It was then that I noticed Mark was holding another bouquet of flowers, white roses. He offered them to me, his face full of confidence, as if he was sure I would be delighted. "No," I chuckled, a hint of sarcasm in my laugh. Annabelle didn't notice, but Mark did. No matter how oblivious he was, more than 10 years of friendship was enough for him to understand my expressions. He lost his playful look, feeling a little guilty, his voice softening. "What's wrong?" I didn't answer because I didn't know how. Should I say I didn't like white roses? Or that I hated flowers? He always thought white suited me because I was reserved and dressed elegantly, but he forgot that I actually hated white and didn't like flowers. He forgot that years ago, the smell of flowers in a car on a long journey once made me so nauseous I threw up into a bag. How could I tell him things I had said countless times before? If my heart had truly moved on, I could at least frankly scold him for forgetting all the habits of a friend he'd known for years. But I felt guilty, had no right. Perhaps sensing my discomfort, he threw the bouquet onto the back seat. "It's fine. If you don't like it, I'll get you something else next time." I forced a smile. "Okay." I couldn't sleep for the rest of the drive. Very soon we arrived. It was a nightclub. As always, Mark never changed his playgrounds. Flashy, dark, and glaring lights, exactly his style. He had booked a private room, and inside, there were already over a dozen men and women. I recognized a few faces. "Late, aren't we, Lord Mark? We tried so hard to get you to come. And you brought 2 girls this time. You're something else, Lord Mark." A few drinking buddies started teasing. I was too used to it to care, but Annabelle was different. It was probably her first time here. Seeing a girl hug Mark, she went ballistic. She rushed forward and pushed the blonde girl away furiously. "What are you doing? Get away from him." The blonde girl was just as feisty and clung to Mark again. "Lord Mark, who is she? So aggressive." I sat on the sofa, glancing at Mark. His eyes were full of amusement. He had no intention of interfering. Even when the other girl hugged him, he didn't push her away. As if he felt my gaze, Mark glanced over. His eyes meeting mine, a smile playing on his lips, dark and unreadable. Sometimes I found him so strange. We had known each other for over 10 years, yet I still didn't know who he truly was. "Wow, Lord Mark, is this your new girlfriend? Quite the temper, isn't she?" Breaking the silence was the guy with green hair, Chule, if I wasn't mistaken. He had a lip piercing and tattoos from his neck down to his feet. He was truly unforgettable. Mark pulled his gaze from me and slowly said, "Yes, my new girlfriend." Annabelle only introduced herself so simply, but even she seemed humiliated. Her face was flushed, but she eventually swallowed her anger and greeted the others. A well-dressed man named Kevin saw me sitting in the corner and spoke up. "Isn't this Ava Chen? Long time no see. Do you have a boyfriend yet?" As soon as he asked, all eyes turned to me. I hadn't even opened my mouth when Mark spoke first. "Whether she does or not, what's it to you? Stay away from her. Don't even think about it." Kevin chuckled. "Lord Mark, you're really something. You have a girlfriend and you still bring Ava here." Then he turned to me again. "Ava, if you ever choose a boyfriend, don't pick someone like him. He's always flirting. No girl could stand that." Mark raised an eyebrow and threw a dice at him. "Stop trying to cause trouble." I didn't say anything. In reality, Kevin didn't need to advise me. I understood better than anyone. After that, they didn't involve me in the conversation anymore. Annabelle also gradually blended in with everyone. I put on my Bluetooth headphones and scrolled through my phone, waiting for the party to end, until a male voice boomed through the microphone, reaching my ears. "Kiss! Kiss!" I looked up and saw them playing Truth or Dare. The loser was Mark. At that moment, he looked at me through the crowd, and my heart skipped a beat. He smiled and walked towards me, everyone's eyes slowly changing. Annabelle's face was almost completely dark. My back began to sweat because I roughly guessed what he was about to do. I hoped I was overthinking, but when Mark stood in front of me, blocking the blinding lights, my whole body stiffened. He had been drinking, his voice low and seductive. "Ava, stand up." A buzzing sound rang in my head. I gritted my teeth, my voice a whisper. "You're crazy." Hearing me, he smiled even more widely. "Good girl, Ava." I no longer cared about the gazes of those around me. I just felt something heavy pressing down, making it hard to breathe. One more second and I would suffocate. I jumped up, muttered, "I'm going to the bathroom," and quickly left. It took several splashes of cold water to gradually calm me down. When I turned around, I saw Annabelle had followed me. I finally understood everything. The game earlier was just that, a game. I hadn't clearly seen their expressions earlier, but now that I thought about it, most of them were just playful. No one was serious. Only I and she were genuine. And those who are genuine are the ones who are easily caught off guard. I thought I was calm enough, controlled enough, yet I had exposed my vulnerabilities everywhere. Didn't I know Mark perfectly well? Yet I foolishly thought he would actually kiss me. He was just playing a game. I was struggling, but Annabelle wasn't faring any better. Her anger and suspicion had reached their peak. She said, "Tell me clearly, what's your relationship with him?" I calmly looked at her. "He's my friend." She reacted as if she'd heard the biggest joke of her life. "Don't lie to me. Friends can kiss each other. I'm his girlfriend. If you have any intentions with him, you'd best give up early." Then, as if she suddenly remembered something, she gnashed her teeth. "You've known him for so many years and never been together. He fundamentally has no interest in you. I advise you to stay away from him. Don't be so shameless and clingy." I really wanted to tell her that I wasn't lying to her, and I also wanted to tell her that Mark truly didn't like me, and perhaps he didn't even like her. But I said nothing, just silently listened to her vent her anger. Looking at her, I suddenly felt a little pity. Before, I thought girls like her were probably cut from the same cloth as Mark. Now I realize I misunderstood. Compared to Mark, she was much simpler. But I had no right to pity anyone. The pitiful, sad person wasn't just her. After venting all her anger, Annabelle left. I no longer had the mood to go back to that room. Mark had been drinking, so he definitely wouldn't drive himself. He had so many friends. None of them would leave him behind. Thinking this, I hailed a taxi home. The night wind was very cold. Winter nights were even more biting, but I rolled down the car window, letting the wind blow in, and felt much lighter and more relaxed. Looking at the dazzling neon lights interwoven on the streets, I suddenly realized how tiring it was to truly like someone. The next morning, my mom asked me to go New Year's shopping with her, and I happily agreed. Hearing my mom say she had also invited Mark's family, I instinctively tried to stop her. I didn't know if Mark remembered what happened last night, or if he cared at all, but at that moment, I really didn't want to see him again. Luckily, my mom didn't ask too many questions. She just called my dad, and the three of us went together. It had been a long time since our family had gone out together. Of course, we couldn't avoid the same old questions. "Ava, how are things progressing with Mark?" Seeing my mom full of anticipation, I immediately felt a headache. "Mom, how many times have I told you? We're just friends. Don't overthink it." She didn't believe me at all. "Don't lie. You two have known each other since childhood, and you've never had a single relationship. How can there be nothing? If you two don't want us adults to interfere, then you should at least show some progress. It's been so many years. You should give your parents an explanation." I couldn't blame my mom for thinking that way. I had liked Mark for so many years, never loved anyone else. Anyone looking in would see that we weren't normal. But Mom didn't know that Mark wasn't like others. He was never short of girlfriends, but none of them were ever me. My dad probably saw my discomfort and spoke up. "Enough asking. Let the kids handle their own affairs." My mom wasn't happy. "What kids? Your daughter is 26, almost 27. If this drags on, when will I see her settled down?" Fortunately, my dad said a few words, and my mom finally stopped pressing the issue between Mark and me. The New Year's market was always crowded. Normally, I didn't like crowded places, but during the New Year, being squeezed among people laughing and talking, it had its own lively atmosphere. My mom, naturally a shopaholic, wanted to buy everything once she stepped into the market. Luckily, Dad stopped her, or we'd have a car full of stuff on the way home. I walked behind them, unconsciously remembering last year's New Year's market trip. That day, we went with Mark's family. I remembered at the time I really liked a stall selling handmade bookmarks. I loved reading and had a habit of collecting bookmarks. Mark picked one up, looked at it and scoffed. "Fake jade, rough craftsmanship, dull colors, full of flaws. If you like it, I'll get you a real jade one for your birthday next year." I just smiled, not thinking much of it, but secretly remembered it. Yet, on my birthday that year, he gave me a high-end designer dress in watercolor print. He proudly showed it off. "I had a famous designer in France custom make this. There's only one in the world. Do you like it?" Of course I said I liked it. How could I bear to make him lose face over a gift he had taken the trouble to choose? It was just a little regrettable that he had forgotten, as if it was all just a joke said and done. I saw Mark again at the company's year-end party. Every year, it was held with voluntary employee performances. I wasn't the type to be lively or show off, but I was dragged onto the stage anyway. I was so embarrassed I covered my face, awkward and stiff, singing for half a song before they finally let me go. Clap, clap, clap went the crisp applause. I looked in the direction of the sound and saw Mark standing at the back of the hall, smiling at me. I froze for a few seconds before reacting. Actually, his presence here wasn't surprising. This was his uncle's company after all. It was just the first time I had seen him since that incident. "Lord Mark, you're here too. What an honor." Before I graduated, he had already worked here and had a good relationship with everyone. I guess only Lily hadn't met him before. As soon as I stepped off the stage, he walked straight towards me. Out of the dim lights, I noticed a girl beside him. As expected, it wasn't Annabelle. Thinking back, it made sense. None of his girlfriends had lasted more than a month. Annabelle had actually lasted quite long. "Hello, Ava. I'm Lucy." The girl greeted me naturally. I nodded slightly, not wanting to pay further attention. But Mark wouldn't let it go. "My mom told me. Why didn't you call me for the New Year's market? Did I do something to upset you? To the point where you have to avoid me?" I looked into his eyes. There wasn't a hint of hesitation. He truly remembered nothing. I felt a lump in my throat, extremely uncomfortable. I sighed, not looking at him anymore. It's nothing. I just hadn't gone out with my parents in a long time, so I wanted to make the most of it. Mark nodded as if he understood. But they're my parents too. So, you deliberately didn't call me. I didn't want to argue. Shamelessly, I glanced at Lucy. She wasn't like Annabelle. She wasn't bothered by my relationship with Mark at all, still smiling politely. Mark saw me looking and seemed to guess what I was thinking. He didn't avoid it and even said directly in front of her, "Lucy is better behaved than Annabelle. She's understanding, she won't upset you." I knew what he was talking about. Before, one of his girlfriends had come all the way to my school gate, blocked me and cursed at me, telling me to stay away from him. That day, she even brought a few people who pushed and shoved me, resulting in a slap that split my lip and made it bleed. I didn't tell Mark about it, not because I wanted to endure it. I had learned self-defense and could have fought back, but it was nearing final exams, and I didn't want my grades to be affected. That was the year I tried my hardest to get closer to him, but somehow he found out. He dragged that girl directly in front of me and made her apologize. His eyes were so fierce then that even I was scared. From then on, he set a rule for all his girlfriends. They were not to bother me. I can't deny that even now, I still feel happy about that special treatment. He gave me the illusion that others were just fleeting, and after all the ups and downs, he would come back to me. Lucy was indeed much better behaved than Annabelle. She never caused me trouble, not even once. Even when Mark repeatedly pulled me away, interrupting their dates, she didn't show any anger. It was precisely when I started to think that perhaps Lucy would be with Mark for a long time. Felt like an eternity, but they broke up anyway. Mark came to me, not saying a word. His eyes weary and listless. I had almost never seen him like that. When I asked, I found out he and Lucy had split. At first I thought it was because of Lucy, but then it struck me as strange. In all these years, he had never been so gloomy because of a woman. Mark drank. His eyes bloodshot to a frightening degree. His gaze was so cold that even a fleeting glance sent shivers down my spine. I said nothing, just sat beside him. After a long while he finally spoke, "She's back." Those 4 words froze in my mind. It took a long time for a name to form, a name I had almost forgotten. The only person in this world who could completely change Mark in an instant. Emily, Mark's first love. The one he had been entangled with for 5 years, on and off. The one who, for the first time, made me see him so drunk he was oblivious, still muttering her name. Of course, how could I forget? All these years, every time he was like this, it was because of her. The time he was drunk, holding my hand, saying vague things. If I remember correctly, that was the day Emily went abroad. I had thought that after all these years, he had moved on from the past. Otherwise, how could he have constantly moved from one person to another? Now thinking back, he had never truly let go. It was all just a dusty facade of the past, ready to spring back to life the moment she appeared. So the special person wasn't me. So he truly had loved deeply. It felt as if the entire ideal world I had painstakingly built over the years crumbled in an instant, leaving nothing behind. I watched him tilt his head back, downing a bottle of beer, choking and coughing violently. The high and mighty rich kid I knew was now so disheveled he was almost unrecognizable. Finally, I couldn't bear it anymore and reached out to stop him. "Don't drink anymore." He looked up at me, but it was as if he was looking through me at someone else. How could she come back? How can she pretend like nothing happened? I didn't want to analyze the meaning of his words. I simply said, "You're drunk. Let's go home." He shoved my hand away, jumping up, his whole body bristling with thorns. "Go. Go where?" She disappeared for 4 years without a word. And now she's telling me to go back. "Emily, what do you take me for?" His voice grew louder and louder, making quite a few people nearby turn to look. I didn't want to lose face, so I quickly grabbed his arm. "Mark, can you stop freaking out?" But how could I match a man's strength? He pushed me away with force. I lost my balance and almost fell backward, luckily caught by a man at a nearby table. Otherwise, I would have been humiliated in front of everyone. The man was with a woman, seemingly his wife. He was tall and burly, and seeing the scene, he immediately rushed over to restrain Mark, incessantly scolding him. "Taking your girlfriend out and arguing like this? What a disgrace." I felt utterly ashamed, quickly explaining my relationship with Mark, apologizing repeatedly and thanking them. The man seemed surprised, then looked at Mark with even more contempt. I picked up Mark's phone, intending to call Chris or Leo to take him home. His phone had a password. I had never seen it, nor had he ever told me. In my haste, I just tried a random combination, and to my surprise it unlocked. The password was my birthday. My fingers stiffened. I looked at the drunken man in front of me, as if I had just discovered a sweet secret, but in that moment, I only felt a bitter amusement. Luckily, Chris and Leo arrived very quickly. I didn't have to endure any more strange looks from people. I called a taxi. I sat in the front seat, while the other two helped Mark into the back. Perhaps the atmosphere was too odd. Leo was the first to speak. "You know, don't you, Ava?" "Know what?" "Yes." Leo didn't hold back and spoke directly. "About Emily coming back. Didn't Mark tell you?" But looking at him like this, it's definitely because of that. Honestly, that girl is disgusting. She cheated on Mark before, then disappeared for years, and now she dares to show her face again. What a tramp. Chris also couldn't hold back. Exactly. She just came back, and Mark is the one suffering the most. Sometimes I really wish you and Mark would get together. You're so much more pleasant than her. They kept talking, but I didn't say a word. I just thought, no matter how harsh their words were, the one who truly captivated Mark's soul could only be her. Perhaps all of us knew deep down that no matter how much Mark hated, loathed, or wanted to kill her, when she truly returned and stood before him, Mark would still soften. I understood that feeling better than anyone. New Year's Eve was my last day at work. As I left the office, Mark was still there, waiting in his car. These past few days he had been the same. Quiet, no smiles, but he came to pick me up from work every day. I didn't know what he was thinking, but recalling how he looked that day, I didn't want to mention her name again. Auntie Mark also worriedly told me, "Mark looks awful lately. He won't say anything when I ask. You two have been close since childhood. Can you keep an eye on him and help him?" I knew Mark didn't want Auntie to know about Emily, and I didn't want to expose someone else's pain. I could only nod and agree. But I understood that we were all helpless. The person who could make him better wasn't here. Got into the car. Today, rarely, there was no other girl sitting beside him. He remained silent, and I didn't bother to speak either. The quiet atmosphere persisted until his phone rang. The phone was on the dashboard in front. Even though I wasn't trying to, I saw the name that appeared. Emily. I looked at him. He didn't answer, just stared straight ahead. The phone rang for over 10 seconds, then stopped. At that moment, I saw him faintly smile, a fleeting, disappointed smile. I said nothing, only felt the suffocating atmosphere like I wanted to throw up. Ding dong. Text message arrived. "I'm at East Harbor Airport, Gate A. I'm waiting for you." 2 messages appeared consecutively. Mark gripped the steering wheel, slammed the accelerator, then braked sharply. I was jolted and dizzy. I saw him take a few deep breaths. Finally, he turned the wheel and reversed, going in the opposite direction. I knew where he was going. This was the road to the airport, completely opposite to the direction of my company. I tightened my seatbelt and said, "Pull over. I'll get a taxi to work." But he didn't react, just kept driving with no sign of stopping. I looked at the clock. 15 minutes left. If I didn't get out now, I would definitely be late. I shouted, "I have to go to work." Finally he spoke. "I'll give you the day off." His voice was indifferent, cold. I almost laughed. "Mark, you're unbelievable." Normally, if I scolded him like that, He would always retaliate with sarcasm, but now he didn't even bother to listen. It seemed the only thing he wanted at this moment was to get there quickly. Everything else was insignificant. I felt my heart growing colder. East Harbor Airport, Gate A. From afar I saw a girl standing by the roadside. She wore a long watercolor printed dress, her smooth black hair falling straight down, so beautiful that passers-by turned to look. In my memory, I had never seen Emily, the only time being a photo on Mark's phone. At the time, I hadn't paid attention. Now I understood. The thing he cherished most was her. Because he cherished her so much, he kept her hidden, not letting anyone discover her. The car stopped. I waited for Mark to get out first. Emily stood right outside the car door on my side. I really didn't know what to say if I got out first. But a minute passed, and he remained motionless. I couldn't stand it anymore and was about to open the door, but he locked it. I was already annoyed and grew even more furious. "You're here, and now you don't dare to meet her." He slammed his hand on the steering wheel, then finally opened the door and stepped out. I sighed softly, then also got out of the car. Emily was truly beautiful, so beautiful that I understood why Mark was so captivated by her. She walked over, ignoring me, only looking at Mark and smiling naturally. "I'm back. Are you happy?" Mark looked at her, his eyes bloodshot. "Why did you come back?" She casually handed him her suitcase, then intimately moved closer. "Because of you. Look, I'm even wearing the dress you gave me in college. Don't be mad anymore, okay?" I looked at Mark. The ice in his eyes briefly melted. Innumerable emotions were hidden within, but a single glance was enough for me to see love. At this moment, I truly understood what Emily was in his heart, and what I was. It was only today that I truly understood him. It wasn't that he didn't remember things related to me. It was that he didn't care. He wasn't a heartless playboy. It was just that he had given his heart to someone else a long time ago. The watercolor printed dress he gave me was because Emily liked it. He had absorbed Emily into his very being, turning her into a habit, while I was just a part of his habits. I thought I was special, that one day I would enter his heart. Who knew that the special person had long since existed? No matter how good the people who came after were, they were just superfluous. It was then that Emily seemed to remember me, acting gentle and polite like a girl next door. "Is this Ava? It's been years since we last met. You're even prettier now. Mark hasn't bullied you, has he?" I remained silent. She wasn't like Annabelle with her overwhelming demeanor, nor was she like Lucy, detached from worldly affairs. Her whole being exuded confidence, a person who didn't need to compete with anyone, because she was certain that thing inherently belonged to her. I averted my gaze, my voice flat. "I still have to go to work. Please excuse me." Emily took my hand again, her voice very intimate. "I just arrived back in the country today. I wanted to talk to you a little more." Her tone was gentle but left no room for refusal. I gently pulled my hand back. "Perhaps another time." She didn't press, just smiled. "That's fine. Let me and Mark see you off for a bit then." Before I could refuse, Mark spoke. "She'll call her own taxi." I looked up at him. His face still held an expression of displeasure and vexation. I knew why, but no matter the reason, it no longer mattered. Still, it made me feel a little pang of sadness. I remembered Annabelle once sarcastically calling me arrogant and aloof, but she didn't know that I was always the one who was never chosen. "Yes, I'll call my own taxi." Anyway, I hadn't intended to take this ride with them. Even if he hadn't spoken, I wouldn't have had any intention of intruding. It's truly laughable that he forced me here, and now he's chasing me away. He's the one who pulled me into this mire, and in the end, he's still the one standing firmly on the shore. Taxi arrived very quickly. I coldly said goodbye to them. Emily waved goodbye, while Mark didn't look at me once. My final glance through the car window suddenly felt infinitely distant, as if the separation between Mark and me wasn't just a car door, wasn't just an Emily, but an entire youth I had spent loving him. It was made of sparkling fragments of memories, pieced together little by little. But broken pieces can never be fully restored. No matter how hard you try, they'll always be full of cracks. I averted my gaze and closed the car door. Old memories flooded my mind, memories of Mark, who seemed to almost like me. But now I seem to have the answer. If all these years Mark's special treatment towards me was because in his eyes, I resembled Emily, then I have to admit, he overestimated me. We were both quiet and reserved, but Emily only had to stand there to command attention, while I was different. I didn't like crowds, didn't like being noticed. I always wanted to escape to an island, a room, a moonbeam, and live my life that way. He would never know these things about me. I arrived home, locked my bedroom door, and pulled out a thick diary from high school. Every page was about Mark. Several photo albums were filled with his pictures. Almost everything he gave me filled the room. His traces in every corner. So much it could drive a person mad. I tore everything into shreds. What I couldn't tear, I stuffed into a trash bag. All of it went into the trash can outside. I suddenly felt lucky that I could be so ruthless, so decisively severing the obsession that had clung to me for so many years, leaving nothing behind. I suddenly realized I was more sober than I thought. No one had ever blindfolded me. I saw clearly, but I still pretended not to know. Luckily, the person hanging by that thread of life had finally reached the end, and my 10-year unrequited love had also concluded. On New Year's Eve, Mark still hadn't returned. My family and Mark's family had always celebrated the new year together, their bond strengthened over years, long considering each other family. Auntie Mark was very displeased. It's New Year's Eve and he's still wandering outside. Ava, didn't you two go together? Where is he? I didn't know how to answer, just forced a smile. I'm not sure, Auntie. Auntie Mark shook her head. Mark is so playful. He's never been settled. Since he was little, only you could manage him. Then she turned to my mom. Helen, the kids are all grown up. How about we discuss their marriage? My mom immediately responded. I just told Ava the same thing. They've been together for so many years. Ava hasn't had a boyfriend, and Mark has never brought a girl home. Aren't they in love? I held my chopsticks, silent. All those beautiful plans would surely be shattered. Sure enough, 10 minutes later, that man walked in with a woman. Mark's expression was still not great, but at least much better than it had been that morning. Emily, on the other hand, smiled radiantly, carrying numerous large and small bags. Hello, Uncle, Auntie. I'm Emily, Mark's girlfriend. Everyone was stunned except for me. My hand still held the chopsticks, calmly picking up food, not letting go. The air was stiflingly silent. The sound of my metal chopsticks clinking against the porcelain plate was jarring. I looked up and coincidentally met Mark's gaze. He looked at me, his eyes dark and unreadable. I smiled at him. Even I was surprised to find that I could gradually stop feeling pain. Even a nonchalant smile in front of him, I could manage. Turned out that letting go of someone was that easy. Or perhaps I had let go of him a long time ago. Auntie Mark and Uncle Mark were utterly astonished. My parents immediately turned to ask me about the situation. Despite their surprise, they quickly accepted this reality. They didn't know what had happened between Emily and Mark. They just thought she was the first person he had brought home to introduce. Mark didn't mention it, and of course I didn't interfere. They sat around, asking all sorts of questions. Emily answered fluently. Already beautiful and an outstanding student who had studied abroad, she quickly won over the adults in the family. Although they inwardly regretted that Mark and I didn't end up together, they gradually accepted Emily. Even when she chatted with me, I could smile and exchange a few pleasantries, as if everything truly had nothing to do with me anymore. Just then my phone vibrated at an inconvenient moment. Taking advantage of everyone's lively conversation, I stepped out onto the balcony. It was a video call from my colleagues group. Everyone was there, the atmosphere incredibly lively. Happy New Year, Sister Ava. Happy New Year, Director Chen. It's after work, and you're still calling her director? That's no fun at all. You should call her Stunning Beauty Chen. Ha ha ha. That's right, Stunning Beauty Chen. Wish you prosperity. Send us red packets, haha. Everyone still loved to tease me like that. I wished them all in turn and conveniently sent a red packet in the group chat. Everyone cheered with delight. I laughed. They truly were a bunch of money lovers. As soon as I exited the video call, another call came in from the CEO. His familiar, stern voice now carried a hint of cheerfulness. Happy New Year, Ava. You've worked hard. Smiled. Happy New Year and thank you, CEO, for all your help and guidance throughout the year. Please send my regards to your wife as well. He laughed heartily. Good, good. You're still as good at flattery as ever. Oh, and about what I told you last time, have you thought about it? We're starting right after the new year. Are you sure you won't change your mind? Pause. So much had happened lately that I had almost forgotten. Looking at the scene in the living room, my heart suddenly felt light. CEO, I've thought it through. I want to challenge myself in South City. As soon as I sat down, Mark glanced at my phone. His voice even. Who called? I didn't bother to look up, just replied curtly. Your friend. He didn't ask anything further, no longer teasing me relentlessly as before. Perhaps this was how we were always meant to be. Just a thread tied by someone else. Once entangled, it could also be cut. Emily, seeing Mark talking to me, turned and said, Now that I remember, Ava, do you have a boyfriend? If you do, bring him here so we can all have a meal together. She completely disregarded the fact that I had been with Mark for many years. Her words carried no hint of animosity. I smiled politely. Not yet. If I do, I'll bring him to introduce. She nodded. Ava is beautiful and excellent. If I were a man, I would definitely like you. Before I could respond, Mark scoffed. She's been single for so many years. I've never seen a man by her side. Does she want to find someone to challenge her fate? That comment displeased Auntie Mark. What are you saying? You've worried people since you were little. Ava has always taken care of you all these years. Now you have a girlfriend, and you're still criticizing Ava. Obviously, these words were ill-timed. As soon as Auntie Mark finished speaking, she realized her mistake and looked at Emily with a hint of apology. But Emily just smiled gently and shook her head. It's okay, Auntie. I don't mind. And besides, Auntie, you're right. If there's anyone to blame, it's Mark for taking up Ava's time. I'll keep a tighter leash on him from now on. As she spoke, she gently patted Mark's shoulder, like a playful reprimand. Seeing that Emily didn't take offense, Auntie Mark relaxed and spoke more naturally. Mark has never told me he had a girlfriend before. Actually, we all thought he and Ava were a couple. I was just talking about this with his mom earlier. Who knew we were so wrong? My hand froze, the ceramic spoon in my hand clinking against the glass. I hadn't expected her to say that at this moment, but no one noticed my reaction because Mark's reaction was much bigger. He slammed the ceramic bowl in his hand onto the table. The clanging sound of metal chopsticks falling to the ground echoed, and the atmosphere instantly froze. How many times have I told you not to arrange my affairs without my permission? His words carried a hint of anger. I wasn't sure who his anger was directed at, but it was very rare to see him lose his temper at his own mother. I and Auntie Mark were close, so I couldn't help but snap back. So you're really bold enough to lose your temper at your mom? As I spoke, I picked up the chopsticks and placed them back in front of him. He looked at me in surprise, then smiled faintly as if not caring. Am I addicted to you now? Until now, Mark and I had almost never argued. At most, I would get angry on my own, and then he would back down and reconcile. This was the first time he had used that tone with me, as if in his eyes, I was no different from those other women. That contempt truly disgusted me. He should be grateful that I worried about him all these years. I clenched the teacup, then released it, my voice calm, neither light nor heavy. Seeing Mark about to say something, Auntie Mark quickly interrupted. All right, that's enough, son. Emily also stood up and ladled a bowl of soup for Auntie. Auntie, don't be angry with him. He's just been a bit hot-headed lately. She gently patted Mark's shoulder playfully again. And you shouldn't be like that with Auntie and Ava. It's really unbecoming. To my surprise, her words actually made Mark calm down. I once thought I wasn't Mark's type, but at least after all these years, I was the one who understood him best. But now I realized that person was Emily. She avoided everything Mark hated. Every gesture was perfect. Not clinging, confident, and radiant. She would directly express who she liked. I suddenly understood why he had missed her for so many years. Or perhaps why he had never loved me. I wasn't sad anymore. It was the feeling of relief from finding an answer. I suddenly remembered an old book Mark had given me. There was a sentence that read, "The traveler journeys towards mountains and islands, passing vibrant sunflowers, golden autumn plums, and cherry blossoms covering the mountains, but never stopping." Someone asks why and he replies, "I only want the rose I saw as a child, whether it's at the edge of a cliff or under the aurora, it doesn't matter." At the time I didn't understand, only found the words too melancholic. Now I understood. That rose was Emily. Even in another 10 years, Mark would still only give his heart once to that rose, never looking back. The day I left North City, the snow fell very heavily. This year was colder than previous years. I didn't tell Mark about going to South City, only informed my parents and colleagues. I also asked my parents not to tell him. Perhaps they thought there was still something between us, afraid I wouldn't bear to leave, so they just gave a few words of advice and agreed. As for me, I no longer cared what they thought. It's truly strange how people are. When I still liked him, if anyone guessed my feelings, I would immediately deny it, afraid of being seen through. But once you want to let go, what others think doesn't matter. I packed my luggage and entered the airport. I deliberately chose a time after the New Year holiday, so the airport wasn't crowded. The CEO, after I agreed, was very happy and booked my ticket himself. Only today did I find out it was a first-class ticket. It seemed he was even more excited than I was. I was both helpless and amused as I followed the signs to the plane. In the past, when traveling for work, I always sat in business class. I always thought that all seats on a plane were the same. It was my first time in first class, and I realized that money truly can make a difference. From the amenities to the service, it was truly a world apart. The cabin only had a dozen seats, and this flight only had 4 or 5 passengers. My seat was by the window, and a man was already sitting next to me. He wore a brown coat and silver-rimmed glasses, holding a book. Seeing me approach, he closed his book and smiled. "Are you sitting by the window?" I nodded, politely replying, "Yes, I apologize." He stood up to let me pass. "No problem." I walked in and sat down, looking out the window at the city I knew so well. Soon I would leave this place. It was strange. It was just a change of residence, but I felt like it was a farewell. Perhaps it truly was a farewell. I thought it would be very painful, but in this moment, I actually felt a sense of relief. "See, Mark, you weren't that hard to forget after all." As the plane prepared for takeoff, I pressed the power button on my phone. My phone was always on silent, so I hadn't seen the last message. The screen, which was already dark, suddenly lit up and then went out, leaving only a short, unread message. "Where are you?